Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD News. I'm your host, Melina Weisskopf, filling in for Steve Lance tonight. We'll start tonight's coverage in Florida with Trump's highly anticipated special announcement. Our host, Steve Lance, is at Mar-a-Lago right now waiting for President Trump. Steve, thanks for joining us. What do you have for us?
Yes, Melina, we're here in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago where the former president is expected to announce his third bid for the White House. This would be unprecedented in the modern era. There have been no protesters outside, but there are a lot of folks out there in support of the former president. Now, I did speak to a few of the former president's advisors during his time at the White House who are also here to show their support in anticipation of his announcement. You can stay tuned at 9 p.m. We will begin live streaming.
All right, Steve, thank you for that. I'm sure many are anticipating and eagerly waiting for what all former President Trump has to say in that announcement. And with the GOP just one seat away from taking the majority in the House, Republican Congress members held a meeting today to elect their nominee for House Speaker.
Republican House members held a closed-door meeting Tuesday afternoon to elect their nominee for House Speaker. Current GOP House Leader Kevin McCarthy received 188 votes. His challenger was Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs, a prominent member of the House Freedom Caucus. Biggs had just announced his challenge against McCarthy Monday night on Newsmax, and he got 31 votes.
There are lots of people in this conference who have listened to their constituency, and their constituencies are saying, look, we need different leadership, both in the House and the Senate. We need to change the direction. We need people who are going to bring our body together and unite it.
The election used secret ballots, but Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz has publicly come out against McCarthy. He criticized McCarthy on The Charlie Kirk Show on Monday.
I'm making my announcement, which is that I'm not voting for Kevin McCarthy. I'm not voting for him tomorrow. I'm not voting for him on the floor. And I am certain that there is a critical mass of people who hold my precise view.
Gaetz also predicted that McCarthy won't have the 218 votes needed to become Speaker when the full House votes on the nomination in January. But other vocal members within the Republican Party still support McCarthy for House Speaker. One of them is Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
If we don't unify behind Kevin McCarthy, we're opening up the door for the Democrats to be able to recruit some of our Republicans, and they may only need one or two since we don't know what we will have in the majority, how many seats we'll have, and I will not allow that to happen.
Also worth noting is that McCarthy has the backing of former President Trump and former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich. In an interview with Fox News last week, Trump reaffirmed his support for McCarthy. And in an opinion piece in the Epoch Times, Gingrich praised McCarthy for working long and hard to help elect a House Republican majority. Meanwhile, House Democrats will hold their leadership elections on November 30th. Current House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has kept quiet about her future plans following the midterms. If she were to retire from her position, House Democratic Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries is expected to be a front-runner. The New York congressman dodged a question on Tuesday about the future of House Democratic leadership.
I think it's time to make sure that we finish the business of the American people over the next few weeks before the end of the 117th Congress.
As of Tuesday evening, Decision Desk HQ has yet to call 15 House seats, most of which are in California. Republicans are one seat away from reaching a majority. Reporting by Allison Lee, NTD News.
And Texas Governor Greg Abbott today declared an invasion on the southern border. In an unprecedented action, he's using the invasion clauses of both the U.S. and Texas's Constitution to boost security at the border. Abbott plans to take a number of actions, including sending the National Guard to turn back migrants crossing the border illegally, building a border wall in several counties, and designating Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The action is the first of its kind. Immigration and border security is mostly handled by the federal government, while states are limited to enforce immigration rules. 5.5 million illegal immigrants have crossed the U.S. since President Biden took office. That's according to Federation for American Immigration Reform. Now, this number includes those apprehended and the 1 million gotaways. That is, those who effectively evaded Border Patrol when crossing illegally. And to break down exactly what this action means and what impact it could have, we're happy to be joined by Andrew Arthur, a former immigration judge and a fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. All right, Art, thank you for joining us today. So as you know, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced that today he's invoking the invasion clause due to the illegal immigration surge. So he'll be deploying the National Guard. Could you help our audience understand what exactly this means that the Texas governor is doing?
Sure, and just by way of background, Governor Abbott has been utilizing his state resources to respond to the migrant surge at the U.S.-Mexico border along Texas, which is about 1,254 miles of the 1,900, almost 2,000-mile border. So it's a pretty big piece of it. What Governor Abbott is doing through this declaration is he's calling out the National Guard to send them down to the border to deter migrants from entering the United States. He's implementing maritime assets, boats, state highway patrol boats, and putting them on the Rio Grande to dissuade people from entering the United States. And he is doing what he's been doing in the past, and that is using the state troopers to apprehend migrants who have entered the United States illegally. Now, it's important to understand Abbott doesn't have the ability to deport aliens from the United States, but he could certainly use his state assets to prevent individuals from entering the United States before they get in.
You know, and earlier this year, Abbott took actions. You know, he issued an executive order telling state law enforcement to apprehend illegal immigrants who illegally crossed. These are the state troopers, I assume, that you're referring to. So why do you think Abbott waited so long to declare an invasion and invoke this invasion, the declaration of invasion?
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there, both in Texas and throughout the United States, who believe that the invasion clause is some sort of magic bullet that's going to enable state governors, including Governor Abbott, to physically deport people from the United States. And again, when polled by NPR, a majority of Americans who were polled actually believe that there is an invasion ongoing at the southwest border. The problem is only the federal government can deport aliens from the United States. Abbott, however, is putting his state resources and also the economic power of Texas behind his actions. Part of the invasion declaration is that the state government in Texas will use its economic might, and Texas is the 9th largest economy in the world, to work with regional partners to dissuade migrants from crossing through Mexico and Central American countries on their way to the United States. So, Abbott's been taking measures ever since March of 2021 under the aegis of Operation Lone Star, which is the, state trooper Texas DPS action that I referred to before. But, with the additional National Guard resources, with state diplomatic efforts, Abbott is putting even more teeth into what's already been a pretty tremendous effort on the part of the folks in Austin.
So if he's been taking action this whole time, why now is he deciding to take this further action? And do you think this will have a significant impact on curbing the border crisis or, quelling that crisis?
Yeah, I think there are actually a couple of reasons that the governor has decided to take this action at this time. The first is we haven't seen the migrant flow slow down. In fact, the latest CBP numbers for October aren't out, but reporting is indicating it's going to be about 230,000 people, which is, a factor of 3 or 4 greater than it was even last October, which wasn't exactly a very good month. The other reason is that in the wake of the midterm elections, President Biden had indicated in a press conference he wasn't going to do anything differently in 2023 and 2024. So I think that Abbott realizes at this juncture that Texas stands alone and that it has to take these additional actions in order to protect, the citizens of the state of Texas and the citizens of the several states.
Do you expect the Biden administration to push back against this? And if so, what kind of pushback do you expect to see?
So when Arizona Governor Doug Ducey began erecting containers along the southwest border in the Yuma Gap, he got a sharply worded letter from the Biden administration telling him to stop, and he didn't. He turned around and he sued the Biden administration for not actually taking action that it's required to at the border. I think that if the Biden administration attempts to push back on Governor Abbott's efforts, it's going to end up drawing a similar lawsuit in a very bad district court system. The federal district courts in Texas are very pro-enforcement by and large. In a Fifth Circuit that has shown itself more than willing to support the states in their efforts to protect themselves against illegal immigration.
All right, thank you for that input. Andrew Arthur from the Center for Immigration Studies. And over in Arizona, Democrat Katie Hobbs declared a victory in the race for governor, but the close race could be headed to a recount. With an estimated 98% of the votes in, Hobbs is currently at 50.4%, while Lake is at 49.6%. The two candidates are separated by roughly 19,000 votes. A number of media outlets have called the race for Hobbs, but Lake is not conceding. More than 28,000 ballots still need to be counted in several Arizona counties, and Lake has been gaining ground in the last several dumps. Under Arizona state law, a recount is triggered when the margin is less than or equal to 0.5%. Several other races could also head to recounts, including the race for Arizona Attorney General and for superintendents of public schools. Airlines have refunded more than $600 million to passengers. That's for flights changed or canceled during the pandemic. The U.S. Department of Transportation announced the total Monday. The agency also announced more than $7.25 million in penalties to 6 airlines for extreme delays in issuing those refunds. The penalties come as part of a federal crackdown on airlines for not complying with refund deadlines. Most of the fines went to foreign-based airlines. Frontier was the only one of the 6 that is U.S.-based. It paid out the most, $222 million in refunds, and was given a $2.2 million penalty. Meanwhile, demand for air travel is rising, and airlines are struggling to keep up. And Operation Santa is going back into effect. The U.S. Postal Service is taking volunteers to answer letters to Santa. These volunteers look through letters that children have written to Santa. Then they can purchase gifts to send to the children on behalf of the North Pole. Anyone who wants to register can do so on the Operation Santa website. The website also publishes the letters with personal information removed. Operation Santa has existed for more than 100 years.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.